Okay, I'm going to show you now how you're going to take the player and make him or her your own. So I've opened up the demo room scene. So to do that, remember go to GWL Pixel, go to ARPG, and in here you're looking for scenes, and it's just this first one, our demo room. Once in the demo room here, navigate to your player dog variant. Sorry about the name, it used to be a dog. I'll give it a different name later. But basically, we're going to use this. This has got all the different systems in here and nav mesh movement to set up your new character. And all we're going to do today is I'm going to show you then how you could put a different model here and have it animate and interact with everything. So to do that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and save the scene as, so I don't ruin the integrity of the demo room. I'm just going to call it an animator room. You can call it whatever you like. And there. Because what we're going to do now is going to click on the player dog variant and we're going to unpack the prefab. All right, so with it unpacked, any changes we make is not going to ruin the original. And in fact, we want to make a new original. So what I'm going to do here now, if you look at your inspector, it's got all the different things. So you see how our mouse input is already set up for us. I and the O open up the canvases. We have alpha 1 and 2 doing the mouse input. So here's your input class with the mouse. Here's your nav mesh movement. So this is the different layers that the laser, it's kind of a ray cast that goes from the camera to your mouse. And then it looks for, oh, did it hit something it can attack? Did it hit something it can interact with? Or did it hit something on the ground? And then performs the behavior accordingly. And a lot of these other things we're not going to have to change. But some of these things we will once we delete the model. So I'm going to close a bunch of these here. Clothing will have to change. So I'm going to leave that open. And then we come down here, melee, the damage dealer, and the projectile point. So these things, if you see, if I click on them, they're actually referencing to the model itself. We're going to delete the model, which means we're going to have to replace the clothing and melee combatant and projectile combatant. Okay, so today I just went to Mixamo and I downloaded this bad boy. I'll drag him in the scene. I'm just going to use him as our character. Just so you see that, you could use whoever. You're just dragging whoever here, as long as you got a rig with the animations, right, in a model, you could put it in there. It's no big deal. So I'm going to click back on the player dog variant, and I'm going to go to skeleton, no armor here. And we're going to need to remember player animations is set to that, because that's what controls our player animations, right? These right here, they're all strings that talk to the animator. So these are parameters, the isDead parameter, melee parameter, so on and so forth. You probably don't ever need to change these. All right, with all that said though, let's just delete this thing and find out what happens because we want to replace it. So with that gone, and we click back on the player dog, we'll see here our clothing is missing, our right hand and our left hand, and also our melee and projectile positions are missing. So we need to replace those. So to replace those, click on your new model. Right, here is my Vanguard person. I'm going to click and drag it where it says mesh holder, and then I'm going to right click and reset it. So it's centered there on the mesh holders. Basically, we got the position at 0, 0, 0. We have our model, make sure there's an animator attached to it with also its avatar. Now, if you don't have the avatar set, make sure you go to your model that you imported here. You go to rig, switch this to humanoid, create from this model, and then hit apply. And then it'll go ahead and, yes, make the rig. And if you get this, because you're getting from Mixamo different animations, if you click that, it'll just update the animations that you downloaded with this rig. All right, so back to this person here. So we actually need a few things. One, on this model, let's add a component and put in player animations. So we need that back on here. And you see the fields already get filled for you automatically. So nice, we have that one attached. Other thing we're going to need is an animator controller. Now, what we need here is actually an override. So we can go back down here in our project view, right click, create, and we're going to do an animate override controller because basically you could just override the base animator and then fill in the animations yourself. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to call this Vanguard character. You could call yours whatever. Now you've got this little asset here, and you'll see we have a controller, and it's asking us which one do you want to override. Well, if we hit the little circle here, you'll see you'll come up with two things: the enemy base, um, the player base, or the skeleton that you saw. But we're going to do, this is a player, so we're going to override the player base. And what you see what happens then is now it's asking, all right, what are the animations for the player base that you want to override there? And now here is where you put your animation clips. So I already have one downloaded. Click on that, go to animation, get all these windows out of the way, huh? All right, so I just got this. I'm just going to use this for a walk, right? Sword and Shield Walk, that's great. So it's called Sword and Shield Walk. Sometimes I like to name these for the particular character. I'm going to call it the Vanguard Sword and Shield Walk. I'm going to apply it. Okay, and now if we go back to our overrider here, so that would be my walk. So right here, Vanguard, and boom. So what you do then is you just make sure you got a clip for any of these, right? And then it'll override it. Okay, so right now I'll just show you the walk there. Now we go back to our character here, and we got our controller. We still need to put that override controller here. So I'll hit the little circle button, and you'll see we'll have all of our different controllers. And here's my Vanguard character I just made. So I'll put that bad boy in there. Okay. So we overridden the player base character. So our animations, this thing could talk to the animations directly. We then also put in an animation here. Of course, on your own, you could fill these up yourself. And now we also put this class player animations to it. So that's going to call into the animator. So the next thing we need to do is go back to our player dog. And we'll rename it. Let's call it player Vanguard. You could put your own character model there or whatever the character's name is. I'm going to call it player Vanguard variant. And now we got to put in the clothing. And we got to put in the melee and the projectile. So the clothing, if you saw before, we're going to open up the rig here. And we just had the left hand and the right hand. So I'm going to keep opening it up until I see left hand. Left hand I'm going to put here into my clothing. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the right hand here. So these things, if you haven't done it before, if I click on it, you see it refers to the different bones on this body, and we're going to attach it to those bones, so it'll be on the hand there. So let's go back to the player Vanguard here, and let's put the right hand back to here. All right, then the other thing is melee combatant. So we need to know like where his damage is going to be. And I put him as a right hand for the character. So for now, we're just going to keep it as right hand. In his right hand, he's going to have the damage dealer. So there's a default. If we don't have any weapons, there's a default provided in the project called a fist right here. So what you could do is you could drag this fist in to the right hand. And then we got to configure it. So the fist here, what it is, it's a wearable. So if you don't have anything equipped, this is the default equipment. It also has this damage dealer trigger. So this is the thing that, here's that melee weapon DD for damage dealer. This is what's going to actually detect what's inside the trigger and then damage it. So here, what we need to do is, well, reform it. Otherwise, this fist is going to be super large. Maybe you want that. I don't. So I'm going to go like this, get those gizmos out of the way. And I'm just going to shape it a little bit to the fist area. And this is going to depend also on the animations that you got, what kind of attack and stuff. I'm going to give it a little bit of in the front because it's nice to give the player a little bit of leeway. And there you go. So we got the fist there now made. And it's attached to the hand, so it's going to follow that hand and the offsets of it. So what we need to do now is set that up. So with our fist attached to our right hand, go back up to the Vanguard. Whoops, go back up to the player Vanguard. I'm going to close the clothing because we're done with the clothing. We don't need to deal with that. Melee combatant, so this requires a melee weapon DD. Yeah, so that's here on this fist. So you drag that bad boy in there. And then the fire point, this is if it, shooting, casting spells or anything, where projectiles are going to come from. We could do the same thing here, just the right hand. I don't really have any projectiles set up, so we'll just use the right hand for now. That's fine. Okay, with that set there, you just gonna need to hit play. And then maybe I can make this view a little bigger. And then, you see, he's walking around there. Now, the axe looks a little weird, so let's unequip that. That's mostly because we haven't set the axe's wearable offset for this particular character. So yeah, check out the other videos to see how you do that. But otherwise, then that's how you get your own character in here. Now, a few things, because maybe your character's bugged out. We want to keep in mind the animations. So we got our character, right? Make sure they have this animation things on it. But I'm going to go to my actual animations here. So this is just him in a T-pose. But the sword and shield walks. So a few things, right? Make sure that it's looped. Walks should be looped. Same with idle. And then if you notice on my animation here, if I hit play, it walks in place. So the animations in the system don't control the movement. That's controlled on the navigation mesh that we saw earlier on the player. So go to the player here, player nav mesh mover. This controls the actual movement there. So you want your animations to do it in place if possible. Now, if you have animations that don't want to do in place, like abilities and stuff, where they're going to move forward and everything, that's fine too. Just need to stop the actual movement on a nav mesh and then just play the animation. But that's just a long way of saying make sure your loop time is on there for your animations. Make sure on the animation the rig is humanoid there, and you've created that actual rig. And then make sure that's the case for both of them. And you should see then when you hit play that they'll do it in place. Once you got those set up, make sure on your animator controller here, you see I've gone ahead and put an idle in there, and then also for a run and a walk. That way you just got a little more fluid movement than just having it the walk. But you have all those things in there. Now I've got my own character. So what I could do is, once I renamed it, I could just click and drag it in here. And now it's a prefab that I could drag into any of the scenes there. And it's got all the setup already. Okay, so that's how you set up your character using the systems there. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for your support and take care.